This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is Thursday, the 25th of July, 2024. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is news to 6 a.m. on News Power Digital. Residents of Production Drive, Sealots, believe they will get justice for the killing of Jonathan Warwood after the Police Complaints Authority paid a visit to the area yesterday. The PSA has started an independent investigation after Warwood, a well-loved tradesman in the area, was reportedly killed by police during a search of a house at around 1 a.m. in Sealots on Tuesday. Lawmen reportedly went in search of the suspects allegedly connected with the shooting at St. Paul Street, East Dry River, which took place at 8:30 p.m. on Monday. In this incident, Police Constable Shakala Charles of the Guard and Emergency Branch and the 26-year-old man of North Post Road, Diego Martin, were both injured during an ambush by two gunmen. Charles remained stable in hospital up to late yesterday, while the civilian remained in critical condition. Senior officers claim the bullet which Charles on his side did not pierce his bulletproof vest. In Sealots, officers said Warwood allegedly confronted them with a cutlass during the search in a Sealots residence, vehemently denied Warwood was involved in any criminal activities. The residents also alleged police planted the cutlass in Warwood's hand and he did not attack them as is being alleged by officers. The state has formally gone on record admitting the detention and return of firearm dealer Brent Thomas from Barbados in 2022 by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service was unlawful. The admission made at a hearing on July 24th yesterday of the Attorney General's appeal of a High Court judge's ruling that permanently stayed all criminal charges against the 61-year-old owner of Specialist Shooting Training Center. Presentations made at the Waterfront Judicial Center in Port of Spain yesterday morning, King's Counsel Peter Knox admitted the officer's unlawful action was based on a legitimate belief Thomas was seeking to flee the country while under investigation. They conceded that they, the police, acted wrongfully and did not act maliciously. Knox said while he accepted that Justice Rampersad was entitled to make the findings he did in relation to Thomas's arrest and extradition and order compensation, he suggested that the findings should have been made against the TNT Police Service and not the state. Knox claimed the judge overstepped in staying criminal charges against Thomas and making adverse findings in relation to the probe that led to charges. Knox claimed there was evidence that Thomas was found in possession of 3 prohibited automatic rifles and 6 non-lethal grenades, which led him to being charged. He claimed that the 2 rifles were listed on Thomas's firearm user's license, but 1 was not. The judges have reserved their rulings after hearing more than 5 hours of submissions in the packed courtroom on the 9th floor of Tower D of the Waterfront Complex. The central government and 3 state enterprises raised $14 billion in debt between October 2023 and June 2024, according to information from the Central Bank May 2024 Monetary Policy Report from the Ministry of Finance. The government and state enterprises issued bonds totaling $9.17 billion on the capital domestic market and US $750 million or $5.06 billion on the international capital market. On June 17, the government raised a 10-year US $750 million bond at an interest rate of 6.40%. In its latest monetary policy report, the central bank indicated its provisional data suggested that for the 8 months ending May 2024, the primary debt recorded 14 bonds issued raising $9.17 billion. In its June 3, 2024 affidavit on the TNT Revenue Authority matter, Finance Minister Colin Imber signaled that TNT's deficit for fiscal 2024 could be as high as $9 billion. A 73-year-old grandfather is suspected to have been killed in a home invasion in Tabakita on Tuesday. Pensioner Lakshmi Prasad Sukram, a father of 2 and grandfather of 1, was found dead in a bedroom of his son's house, which had been ransacked. His son Sunil Sukram returned home from work on Tuesday night and found his father dead. Police suspect the elderly man may have died as a result of suffocation, but they are awaiting the results of a post-mortem examination, which will ascertain the exact cause of death. Police investigations are continuing. A 5th person has died from dengue in Trinidad and Tobago. The Ministry of Health confirmed there are 450 lab-confirmed cases of dengue fever and 5 lab-confirmed deaths. The public is reminded dengue fever may be spread by the bite of an infected Aedes aegypti mosquito. Symptoms may appear between 5 to 6 days after being bitten and last for 1 to 2 weeks. Persons should seek medical attention if they suspect they have been infected. Veteran composer and arranger Len Boogsy Sharp has called for PAN to be placed on the nation's school curriculum. He was speaking last week at the recently concluded President's PAN Camp, which was hosted by President Christine Kangaloo. Sharp praised the initiative and said PAN could deter youth from life of crime and violence. He said, quote, PAN is our national instrument. A number of steel bands do not have proper yards to conduct their events. Culture Minister Randall Mitchell should intervene and help. The ball is now in his court, end quote. He added, the Education Ministry should put PAN in schools, put PAN in the curriculum. Let children learn about the national instrument and take pride in the national instrument. Earlier this month, a bill was passed in Parliament designating PAN this country's national musical instrument. In news of the region, the 47th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM Community CARICOM will be held in St. George, Grenada from July 28th to 30th, 2024. Grenada is hosting the conference in its 50th anniversary of independence. The meeting of the conference is also being held 35 years since signaling CARICOM's Grand Ass Declaration, which set in motion CARICOM's transition to a single market economy and other critical matters. Finally, U.S. President Joe Biden told Americans in a televised address that he decided to end his faltering re-election campaign in a bid to save U.S. democracy. Mr. Biden, 81, said he felt his record as president merited a second term, but that nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. He said he endorsed U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris to unite the nation and fellow Democrats in the country. The White House speech marked his first public appearance since he exited the race on July 21st, paving the way for Ms. Harris to run the party's nomination. He said, I revere this office. I love my country, but I love my country more. He said, I've decided to put the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. He's been in public office for over half a century. He said, this is the best way to unite the nation. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We have major news coming your way at 7 a.m. Good morning.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
Neighbors, on this pre-Friday, yep, it is Thursday, the 25th day of July. Thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show on Power 102 Digital. Of course, it's all about the R's this morning. You just heard from Dr. Paul Richards. We'll hear from Richard Ragoobarsingh. We got Ruben and Shane in the mix. My name is Steve Khan. All right, warm morning already, 27 degrees. On both islands, feels like 31. It's quite warm already. And before I say my hellos, let's say good morning to Super Paul.
Morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, pal. How you doing?
I'm good. And yourself?
Not bad. Not bad at all. Not bad. Been a busy Wednesday for me, but not bad. Today is equally busy. Tomorrow is equally busy. But yes, hope all is well. Hope you had a good night. Let's see. Let's get into WT, see what's happening with weather and traffic. Let me just do a refresh on it. I see the Valencia stretch has got some congestion going to Tacarigua to Page on the Eastern Main Road. You got some as well on the highways, Marval, Solo, San Fernando. Nothing to tell you about, all right? Nothing to tell you about. Of course, Trinidad and Tobago is on an adverse weather alert till 10 a.m. this morning. I got no rain home by me, but hopefully when the Met Office is saying that partly cloudy, hazy, and at times breezy conditions accompanied by intermittent light to moderate showers. There's a medium 60% chance of a few heavy showers or thunderstorms favoring the morning period, with a gradual transition to settled conditions despite the lingering shower, and a low chance, 30%, of an isolated heavy shower. All right, 31 the high for today, 30 at Crown Point. And just a little tidbit I should tell you about that on, let me see if I can find it here. I just had it. Here it is. Sunday gone, the 21st day of July, it was the hottest day on the planet. Yeah, it was the hottest day on the planet. Before that, it was August 12, 2016. Yeah, so there you go. All right. Let's see who sent us hellos. A lot of people. God Celia, Slick Money Grip, Maria Celia, Boy Badesi out in Davie, Anthony Tinto out in Ontario, Canada. Right. Wendy Ann James, Wayne Bennett, Riri out in West Palm Beach, Florida, D. Pierre, Rena Boodoo Jennings, David Wares, and of course, Mrs. Wares. How you doing? Good morning to you all. Biznath Prasad, Gloria Gray, Hanif Daniel. Okay, Hanif. Thank you for joining us. CJ New York, Mo Gaines, Nikisha Pierre, Wayne Ramsey, Brent Sylvester, Cohen Duke, Carol Guevara, Ian Lee out in London. Carol Guevara, I just said that. Showin Ku, Mrs. R is up already. Anthony Miguel. Good morning to you all. On WhatsApp at 318-1021. I got some here. I've got Oliver Man Warren. I got GNC Auto Security. I got Michael out in London. I got Dan Raj. I've got Captain Ron in Orlando. I got Val. I got Sankofa. And I've got, who's this here? I think this is Aisha. Good morning to you out in Atlanta, I think it is. Yeah. All right. So good morning to you guys. And of course, David Nelson. Yeah, adverse weather alert, Paul, and I got no rain. I'm not seeing any rain anywhere.
I don't know. It's dry where I am.
It's dry. When I left this one, I thought I've heard some.
Maybe it's coming later today. Who knows?
Yeah, but the adverse weather alert is till 10. It was issued at 9:45 last evening. So we wait and see. We'll wait and see.
Len Bugsy Sharp is calling for PAN to be placed on school curricula in the country.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're having this conversation still.
Every year for the last 100 years, we've been saying that.
I don't know about every year, but it comes up every so often.
We keep hearing it over and over. Why is it not? Some schools do it.
Well, earlier in July, both houses of parliament passed a bill making PAN officially and in law this country's national musical instrument. So let's see if that helps legitimize the call, although I don't think it needs any legitimization.
No. I'm not even holding my breath. I might die.
For the education ministry, because the government brought the bill and passed the law, helped pass the law. So one would imagine that the Ministry of Education, which is part of the government, would heed the call by Mr. Sharp to place PAN on the curriculum. But I think most schools have music. Primary and secondary schools have music as part of the curriculum. So I don't know if it is he wants PAN specifically or it to be included as one of the instruments taught. Because, I mean, it's just that might not be the choice of a student. You understand?
Yeah.
So they might say, well, yeah, PAN, you could choose piano, flute, violin, or PAN. I don't know that we should force children to learn any particular musical instrument, but it should certainly be an option for the students to choose as an instrument.
Exactly. At least it's there.
But I don't know that it's not there, you know.
Well, I know some schools.
I know some schools that where students learn PAN.
Yeah.
So
Presentation College, junior.
I know a lot of schools where students learn PAN. So
yeah.
So I am, look, Daniel Nice is saying when he was in primary school and secondary school in Diego Martin, the music class used to teach PAN. So exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that it has to be officially placed in the curriculum. It's an option as a musical instrument. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I would agree that a student should have to learn pan. You understand?
Yeah.
But it should be available as a choice
Should
in
be
all
there.
schools.
Yeah. Should be there.
I looked at pieces of the news last night online,
Yeah, I didn't watch news.
and as expected,
Mm-hmm.
residents of Sealots have a different version of events in the shooting death by police of Jonathan Warwood,
Mm-hmm.
whom the police said attacked them with a cutlass
Mm-hmm.
when they went into a house on Production Drive. The Police Complaints Authority have started an investigation into the police-involved shooting, where the police went to initiate a search, reportedly connected to the shooting in St. Paul Street, in which Police Constable Shakada Charles of the Garden Emergency Branch and a 26-year-old man of Diego Martin were both injured when gunfire was going right, left, and center.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Charles is in stable condition. I heard they were calling for blood and or platelets. So if you are so inclined or able to do so, please
Yeah.
help out.
Yeah. You should always give blood.
Well, you should always
Every
give
so
blood
often.
if it's appropriate for you to give blood.
Yeah. Once you can, you do need a pint.
You know,
It seems
I have a colleague. And we'll talk about that blood donation thing in a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing what it's supposed to be, yeah? And it's only because the person spoke to me in confidence, I wouldn't call the name, but
Mm-hmm. Oh, you have to enlighten me on that because I go
but
every.
I will talk about it on air.
Okay.
But back to this issue in Sealots, where the police said when they went to the house,
Mm-hmm.
the man rushed them with a cutlass. And it is alleged that the young man, Jonathan Warwood, may have been involved in the shooting in St. Paul Street, in which the officer and the other man were shot.
Mm-hmm.
So he had gun in St. Paul Street
Mm-hmm.
and cutlass in Sealots. Okay.
Again, we don't know. There were no body cams.
But we don't know. Maybe there were. We just don't know.
We don't know. That's true. We don't know.
Maybe there were body cams, but we wouldn't know.
And I don't think we'll ever know.
That I agree with. I don't think we
I don't know. I don't know what year it is.
I'm going to use an unmedia friendly phrase. Was included some obscenity, but I decided to restrain myself because somebody will record it and rotate it heavily in social media and call for my head. You know how some of these people go.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking. But back to the story. Residents are alleging that police planted the cutlass in Warwood's hand. And he did not attack them as being alleged by officers.
I read that.
So you have gun and cutlass.
Gun and cutlass.
Maybe the cutlass was closer. Who knows?
I don't know what year we live in, yes.
So you go to Sealots, again, as I keep saying, in what you should expect to be a high-risk environment, because you say you're going to look for the people who were involved in the shooting of your colleague.
Yeah.
Right? So you should go expecting guns and people who are willing to shoot at you. So you should take all the necessary precautions to protect your life, absolutely, including wearing body cams. But apparently they still don't have enough body cams for all the operations. So maybe it had other operations in the day where they needed body cams more.
True, like up in
Like in the crazy directing traffic.
Mm-hmm. That quiz is a mess.
I don't know who they feel they're fooling, you know.
I don't know.
I don't know who they feel they're fooling.
That's all we can do. Stoops.
So a colleague of mine, his wife became ill. And she was in the hospital. And she needed blood. And so the normal procedure is you give blood to get blood for a family member or friend, right?
Right.
If you give 3 pints of blood, you have 3 pints of blood given on your behalf. The people take the chits and they carry them in, and you get to carry them in and say, well, these pints of blood were donated on behalf of X and Y, right? That's how it works, right? That's how I remember it works. Correct? So he did that and still couldn't get the blood given to his wife.
Somebody sent a message.
They kept saying we have a shortage. We have a shortage. We have a shortage.
Look, Dominic Hussain is saying, my cousin gave blood for over 15 years. And he had an accident and needed blood and had to get donors.
And she couldn't get blood. And the person, whoever the administrator was, kept telling him that. He had to call somebody who knew the Minister of Health to get them to get off the tail and give the woman blood because he had the chits of the blood donated on her behalf.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the week after, they went on a national campaign about blood drive. Blood bank, or you need to get your act together.
Yeah. My brother needed blood, 3 weeks ago?
Or you need to get your act together, blood bank.
Yeah.
Good morning, guys, and good morning to our listeners and viewers wherever you are.
Richard is on, but we're not hearing him. Wonder why.
I am hearing him.
I was playing the fool here, so I was hoping he'd take my lead.
No, I won't.
But at this hour, we're like kind of slow.
Yeah. Blood bank to get their act together. And this is not the only story of issues I've heard with people who went with legitimate donation chits for blood and still could not get blood. And it wasn't that she had a rare blood type or something, because sometimes people have a rare blood type.
Yeah.
That even if people give blood on their behalf, there's just none of that rare blood type available.
Do you know your blood type, Rich? Do you know your blood type?
Absolutely.
It's right there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm A positive.
I don't have any rare blood type. I'm a normal vampire.
I'm A plus. Let's see.
Richard, you have blue blood.
Oh, wait. I've been sent on Saturday, 27th July, which is this Saturday, the UE Blood Donor Foundation 32nd voluntary blood drive. Look at that. At Mount Hope Blood Bank.
And I encourage people to participate, but I still say the blood bank need to get that together.
Just like
because this is not the first, second, third, fifth, or seventh stories I've heard like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But look, our listener here said the same thing. Dominic Hussain. He said, just said that.
You need to get the act together. Because donation of blood and availability of blood is very often a life and death situation.
Yeah.
When people need the blood.
Pretty much.
Okay. Interesting development in the Brent Thomas. They're using the word extradition. Some others, the judicial officer used the word kidnapping, them using the word extradition from Barbados, where we still don't know, after all this time, who tell them all you go and get the man in Barbados. So, the state of Trinidad and Tobago has finally gone on record admitting that the detention and return of firearm dealer Brent Thomas from Barbados in 2022 was unlawful. So the state admit that the people who went and picked up the man in Barbados break the law. Who went and picked up the man in Barbados? Remind me, please, Steve. Richard, remind me, please.
I can't remember who it was.
Members of the TDPS.
You can't remember who it was?
But members of the TDPS were.
Oh.
But they said it was illegal. It was probably legal, but without malice. That's what
But then the Barbados government said it was illegal. Or did I read that somewhere?
The
no,
Barbados
the
Attorney General said it went beyond the ambits of the law
In Barbados, that's what they said, right?
yeah.
very
This was-
early in the game.
And this was the first time there was some concession on the state's part in Trinidad and Tobago with regard to the issue. And so they did concede that it was illegal, but without malice.
Could you differentiate what that means for us as laymen when not legally trained?
I think it's
Yeah, regular, but you didn't have bad mind with it.
It wasn't intentional in terms of intentional and intent to.
So you didn't intend to go and pick him up in Barbados.
They didn't intend to be malicious about picking.
So there's malicious by the way.
No, they thought maybe that
It just happened to be illegal,
The
unlawful,
argument is
but
that
it wasn't malicious.
I suppose the argument is that they probably thought they were on the right side of the law, and unfortunately they aren't. But it wasn't done with any malice.
So they didn't know what was law and what wasn't law.
They probably thought they were on the right
Or they
side.
misinterpreted what they thought was lawful.
Yes.
I'm trying to walk down this line you carry me down here.
Along that line.
Okay. And they also identified that they should not be, the matter should not be identifying the state as the culpable party, but it should be identifying the TTPS as the culpable party. Not so?
Well, that would still be the state.
As far as I could see,
Because the
police acting on behalf of the state.
they are agents of the state. Yeah.
I don't look, it's you have to be wary of attorneys and lawyers and law and thing.
Because if you sue a police officer,
Who have to pay? The state of Trinidad and Tobago.
yeah,
if
for
you lose.
overreach, it's usually the state.
The state of Trinidad and Tobago has to pay. So what this is not the state and the TTPS, but these machinations. Oh God, give me a check. Look, or you stop now.
Yeah. It was always difficult, in my opinion, to defend. When that whole issue arose, I mean, and we discussed it on this program, of course, for several days, if not weeks, that it was highly unusual because there's an extradition process that just seemed to have been completely bypassed.
But non-maliciously.
So, it was, and people were saying, I remember some callers were saying, well, maybe they have some sort of treaty or something. And I'm like, what treaty?
Like the Red Blanket group jump out on the chat.
What treaty did they have? It's either you follow the law, or you didn't, which is what is coming to pass. Either you followed the law or you didn't. And obviously, there's a concession saying, well, they didn't follow the law.
But it wasn't malicious.
But it was without malice.
Zena, you're selling real Red Blanket these days, you're making money.
Who's that?
The Red Blanket group jump out on the chat.
Oh, okay.
Don't dare speak ill of anything in this country. What somebody told you yesterday, they're trying to accept it. What are you talking about? Something to that nature. Yes. Or you wrap up in your blanket and delusion.
Yeah, so all of that.
Everything is wonderful in Trinidad and Tobago, Richard and Steve. Everything is wonderful. We are alive. We should be grateful. The police are trying. And all is well in paradise.
One of these stories.
Do you remember yesterday I was talking when I got home on Tuesday afternoon that I heard about 5 or 6 gunshots? Only to read yesterday that somebody went on Marketplace to buy a car and they went up from Superior and somebody got shot.
Yeah, but she didn't die. I think it's a lady, not so?
Yes. So I read. No, she didn't die. So that's
She's
good
in
news.
hospital in critical condition.
Yeah.
I always find I guess maybe there are really good transactions in Facebook Marketplace, but Facebook Marketplace just comes across to me as a little like a dangerous network.
It is.
Because
A lady, a WPC went to Republic Bank car park on Park and Charlotte and to buy a phone or something like that, a WPC, and was robbed. A next set of fellas went somewhere on same Charlotte Street by that gas station there by Oxford, I think it is, and robbed again. Thank you,
you're
Shelley.
really so careful on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
So careful.
And they said the TDPS is urging people to do that. If you have to go to a police station, do that. If you want to sell or buy a car, let them meet you at a police station.
Yeah. No, I know that they're probably legitimate. There are legitimate people trying to buy stuff and sell stuff, but
Yeah.
it's so riddled with so many robberies that we hear that it's something that people will start to shy away from.
Mm-hmm.
Say, well, no, I'm not bothering. It's on what was on Facebook Marketplace. I ain't going there. That's where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Because it seems obviously that criminals are using it to lure people with whatever deals.
Some criminals.
And
There's some legitimate. There's a lot of legitimate transactions and nobody hurt.
Yeah, but obviously the criminals are using it.
Of course, it's a platform, so they'll find they're
So I mean, be very careful, and maybe wherever you go to do transactions, make sure you have a battalion of people with you.
I was going to talk about a 73-year-old grandfather who is suspected to have been killed at his home in an home invasion in Tabakit, but I ain't want to talk about that because I'll be perceived as being negative. But condolences to the family.
Yeah, that was a very sad story.
But don't talk about that, Richard. Don't talk about that.
It was very sad. It was very sad. The brother was talking, and his brother was he was very frustrated, and he was hurt and frustrated, and he said they should just close down Trinidad along that line.
So negative.
They just because he was speaking from a place of hurt and frustration, and he says his brother is retired. He was a cleaner for 20-something years at the Princestown Health Clinic or the Tabakit Health Clinic, and he said, he was just humble and he said where he lived in Tabakit, he always felt was like a paradise because they never had any of those issues, and now that shattered it. I suppose Anita Haynes would probably know these because she's from Tabakit, isn't she?
Yes.
She's the MP for Tabakit.
She's the MP.
Yeah, so she would probably know who it was. Apparently, he was well known because of the years of service he was in the health clinic. Whichever health clinic it was, I can't remember the exact one. So very sad. I saw some international news today that BD Labs, who does the plastic vials for blood cultures, especially for things like sepsis and other certain infections in hospitals across the United States, there's a shortage, and it's an acute shortage that is causing problems in the health sector across the United States. The FDA has just put it as one of the devices that there's a shortage of, and they're saying that they wouldn't regularize the shortage until September. So it's causing a lot of angst because over 50% of the hospitals in the United States use it, and of course it's an indispensable part of treating patients.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a huge issue. I don't know how much that shortage affects us in Trinidad and Tobago and whether we use those sorts of vials here, because it seems that there are other manufacturers, but I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know what our health sector uses. But it was one of those stories coming up this morning and as one of concern. So that was a little international news there. Of course, President Biden also made his speech last night. He addressed the nation of the United States, and by extension, the planet, because the planet pays attention to what goes on in the United States. And he made a speech. I suppose you can consider it his swan song speech, basically.
No, not yet. That's just the transition speech.
Passing the torch over to Kamala Harris, but I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good speech.
Well,
and
I'm sure he knew it would be a speech that would be linked to his legacy. So
yeah, emotional at times in terms of what he was saying, and of course clearly talking to the voters in November about what the choices are and how he labeled those choices.
Well, he certainly would have to. He's already endorsed Kamala Harris, and he certainly, I'm sure, will be a strategic support mechanism for her leading into November 5th, is it?
Yeah, it's somewhere around there.
Yeah. So, he has to now it's all hands on deck, and it's amazing how quickly the backroom machinery for both parties kick in from the time she was endorsed by him some days ago to now. The amount of positive and negative memes you see regarding her, she's now the central focal point of American politics.
Yeah.
Because she's the new energizing Democratic base person. So
yeah,
I think that the Democratic campaign has been given a boost by this announcement. It was a toss-up between what many described as, and I'm not saying this pejoratively, two old men, you understand? Neither of whom the population thought, okay, well, is this the future? Kind of thing. So now with her significant age difference in terms of her youth, there's been a new dynamic introduced into the American political scenario with this election. And of course, the fact that she's female and minority adds a different dimension to it,
Well, one of the phrases that President Biden used last night was, it's a choice between hate and hope. And he used a lot of analogies along that line. He never mentioned President Trump's name.
He doesn't have to.
Never mentioned.
They're positioning the campaign.
Yeah, and he just said, that's what he said it was, and he quoted Benjamin Franklin about whether in those formative years, whether they wanted a republic or a monarchy. And, and Benjamin Franklin said something along the lines that once it was a republic, you have to be vigilant. I'm paraphrasing, but along those lines, that you have to be vigilant. Vigilant about the republic.
Well, I think, as I said, that would be one of a couple significant speeches President Biden will be giving in the next couple of months, because this is like his legacy positioning now, and how he wants to be seen in the history of the U.S. when all is said and done, because this is, as you said, this is part of his swan song moving forward, and he has to come over very statesman-like, but also it's a political campaign, so he has to secure the interest of the country moving forward. So he said,
so it was a speech filled with that kind of hope and painting that positive trajectory,
if they choose Kamala Harris.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And he's just talking about basically telling the American public, it's you have to have the choice. You are the ones that are going to decide this.
We neglected to open the phone lines. We apologize. You can call now.
Yeah, so let's do that. Good morning to Listra Park out in Barcelona, Spain. Good morning to you.
And then they had J.D. Vance, and one of these speeches he made, being critical of Kamala Harris. I don't know, they need to shut him up, is that, even though she of course she's married to
he says she's childless. That's his big thing.
Yeah,
she's childless. Nobody childless should run the US.
Yeah, childless woman with cats.
Yeah.
We have a call coming through, gentlemen. Let's grab it. Good morning.
What a weird argument.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning.
Richard, I want to remind you that your theory might be wrong when you said when you're going to buy something, go with a battalion of people. If you remember what happened at the courts incident, battalion of people get shot. All right? That's just one thing, perspective to look at it at.
But I don't think that it's wrong. I just think that it's better.
Well, it might not be effective as you are saying that it might be. Paul, I have a question for you. I don't know if I asked you this question already.
Quite
but
possibly.
I remember asking it on 102. If there's a favor I would like you to find out for me when you're in Parliament.
But I didn't do you a favor yesterday. I got away in Haiti yesterday.
Well, that was excellent. It was an excellent interview. I appreciate that.
And I'm getting him back next week, Tuesday, hopefully. So,
excellent.
So that's how much favor you want.
For Wayne Head, for that caller that was asking for Wayne Head.
I think Wendell wants to be.
I wanted to start. Anyway, I'll do that when Wendell is there. I
already advised Wendell you should work on Tuesday. And he said yes.
Anytime Wendell is there, I want to start my contribution by saying local government reform is a hoax. I support that 100%. The question I would like you to find out, Paul, the Prime Minister of this country had announced that he's going to fine $100 million, give it to the Chief of Defense Staff towards youth reform and stuff like that. Could you use your good office to find out if that has happened yet? If it has, what has the Chief of Defense Staff started to do about it? If it hasn't, why hasn't it been handed over? And when is it going to be handed over? Or if it's still going to happen? Because we have a history, this government especially have a history about talking things in public forums and it never materializing. So could you find out if that is happening or if ever going to happen or has happened? I'm leaving it totally open. I'm asking a question. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Good morning.
Steve, just 1 second, please, caller. Could you advise the audience who the guest is so they don't remain so anxious?
It's a big surprise.
No, don't get who the guest is now, God.
Don't or do?
Do. People are anxious.
Gideon Dixon.
Right. The Police Social and Welfare Association President Gideon Dixon is the guest at 7:10. So you can relax now.
And tomorrow we'll talk about I have some folks from the Ministry of National Security coming in. Next
Talk
week.
About RFID plates?
National Security, not Ministry of Works.
That's part of national security things.
Well, it's interlinks, yeah. Yeah, I'll find out.
RFID plates have to be a joke now because
that is a joke.
We have a
big joke. Right? Caller morning. Sorry, Richard was talking.
Caro to you all in the Yoruba language. Good morning. And Santi, thank you for who y'all are bringing this morning. And also thank you for having Dr. Wade Head yesterday. Very, very good interview. Right. This morning, I want to commend the police officers I think it's in Madeline Police, where this guy drove. I'm not sure if he drove through, but he was driving and swaying, and they pulled him over.
Oh, you mean he's driving northbound on the southbound lane of the Solomon? Yes, I read that.
Correct. He was driving in the wrong direction. He gave chase. Imagine that. He chased them, tried to get them, support him. Thank you, officers, for a job well done. So far, the guy in the green vehicle who went through that roadblock and went up in Bagatelle has not been found as yet. A green vehicle. So Western, see if you all could do like your colleagues in the southern area and see if all you could find that driver and they said he had so much charges and whatever. My God, please, officers, see if all you could find that green vehicle, because a man to drive through a police roadblock that tells you what it is he probably had in his vehicle. So this is my contribution this morning. Officers in the St. Madeline police station, thank you for a job well done. You'll
Good job, St. Madeline. Keep it up.
Yeah, keep it up. Thank you, Digger Martin.
So good morning to Cynthia Aaron, Cheryl Henry. Good morning. She says, good morning, guys. I hope you all don't call Gary this morning to talk crap on this Brent Thomas matter, please.
And if I did say that, I was going down by Raja we talk this morning. If I did only say that, if I did read that.
Well, we didn't want the comments. Rena Jennings says, Cheryl, if they do, I go on. Richard M. Gerard, good morning. Beauty Culture says, Goy? Cheryl.
I don't understand that.
That means I suppose she was trying to type good morning. Cheryl Henry says, I'm just waiting to see who the guest is. Beauty Culture, good morning, guys. The weekend has begun. It certainly has, Beauty Culture. You know, it begins at midnight tonight because it's Thursday. Rena Jennings, same here. Nemesis on police again. DS Lips. Celeste, oh God. Adrena, help me. Lester Craigwell says, time has really changed. PNM people was never known to be this thin-skinned people. Marcia Rock, good morning, gentlemen. So that's just some of the people in the comment section that I'm reading. I don't know if Steve read some of those before, like Vianney Warwood. And saying good morning, Vianney Warwood. Finbar Collins, good morning. He's saying somebody is so narcissistic. I'm not so sure who he's talking about.
Your guess is as good as mine.
You guys just saying you're just like Dale. If we do not agree with you, we are deemed red. I think he's throwing that for you, Paul.
Really? Me? Yeah. That's for me.
Take it.
You sure?
That Gary just I'll take it. That was for you. So take it like a man. Take it like a man. Good narcissist.
Do you have papers, Ragoobarsingh?
Yes, I do. Good morning good morning to the panel and good morning, listeners. And good morning, TTDF. So that's just some of the people on our comment stream this morning, having all manner of varied opinions.
Thank you for your wonderful feedback.
Yeah, you know, the interaction, you know, whatever all they say, we can take. And especially Paul. Paul can handle it. Yeah. Narcissistic people usually care about it.
because of our vast egos.
Newsday for
it
today.
Serves as a buffer.
Newsday today. Of course, today is Thursday, July 25th. The main headline on the Newsday today: gangs keep us safe. That's the headline.
Could you imagine?
Gangs keep us safe. Residents, cops don't run things in St. Paul Street. Gangs keep us safe. And a police vehicle patrols Besser and Paul Streets, Port of Spain on Wednesday. So that's the main picture and the main headline. State admits gun dealer's Barbados arrest was unlawful. And the Business Newsday, the headline is crossing US $1 billion milestone. But I can't see what exactly they're talking about because it's so tiny. So I could look inside and see if I see it quickly. And if I can't see it quickly, I will just not bother. Yeah. So TT-China trade relations booming amid 50-year celebrations, crossing US $1 billion milestone. And so that's it. Trinidad and Tobago Guardian for today. Front page. Main headline, unlawful move. State concedes businessman was taken against his will from Barbados. And of course, that businessman is Brent Thomas. Pensioner murdered in Morva is the other headline. And that's also a picture. So it's the house where Levy Duncan, 75, was killed before being buried in a shallow grave in his backyard on Monday. Another pensioner, Lachmat Prasad Sukram, 73, was murdered in Tabakeet. So obviously, people who are older in age and more vulnerable are seeing some attacks, but that has been going on for a little while. So obviously, the TTPS needs to look at how do you do welfare checks on senior citizens in communities across Trinidad and Tobago. And you could get that from the communities themselves. They will know who the senior citizens are, but something has to be done. Dengue deaths rise to 5. And on the back page of the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian, Davis Cup men lose again. And that's it for the front and the back of the Guardian. So on to the final daily for this morning, the Daily Express. On the front page, deadly dengue. Disease claims 5th victim. Cases rise from 57 in 2023 to 450 in 2024. So it's a dramatic increase in cases. And apparently it's not just Trinidad and Tobago. It's globally it's happening. Manzanilla Road is ready. Now that's great news.
It is.
Give the state a round of applause there, please, Paul.
Gosh.
Hold on.
Yeah. All right.
Well done, Paul. Nice sound effect.
Thank you.
Like water.
That's all like rain.
That's all like the sea coming back.
What's all of that?
Anyway. Thank you, Paul.
Right.
Okay.
We get the message.
So Manzanilla Road is ready, and it looks absolutely wonderful, at least on the picture. And Rowan Sinanan, the Minister of Works, is striding center of the road. So that's great news for people in that area. So that's on the front page of the Express. Minister of Works and Transport, Rowan Sinanan, tours the completed phase 1 of the reconstructed roadway along Manzanilla Miara Road. And that's it for the front page of the Daily Express. On the back page, there's a bridge, I'm telling you, Narima, going up Calvary, and that leads to the bypass. That used to be a track for years and years and years and years. If it's one thing that people in that area in Narima, people are thankful for to Jack Warner, who was the Minister of Work, was for building that bridge. It was something that generations grew up and died. And the state saying they would develop that road and fix it, and they never did. Jack Warner did it. And to this day, if you go up in that area, people will still give praise to Jack Warner for building that. Just putting that in there. How important infrastructure is to communities. Moti ready to return. Injury forces Seema Lewis out of contention. I have no idea what all of that means. And that's it for the front and the back page of the 3 dailies this morning.
Yeah. All right. I have some WhatsApp here. What is going on with Me TV? I have no idea.
M&E TV.
Yeah, M&E TV. I have no idea. It's yeah. So we're not on TV this morning as yet.
But people say that, but sometimes, remember, it broadcasts on different cable channels. So sometimes there's an origin of issue at the cable channel. Yeah. Sometimes it's on flow properly and it's not on digital and otherwise. So we have no control over that.
Yeah, we have no control.
We've authorized them to take our feed. That's all.
All right, let's get the results of our morning poll yesterday. Yeah, where we asked you yesterday, are you satisfied with the performance of the National Security Minister, Fitzgerald Hines? The results are in. 86%, 86 said no.
So
all right.
The question this morning I'm suggesting comes from the fact that we have a 5th dengue death now, and the cases are rising seemingly every time the ministry puts out an update. Mm-hmm. And there had been a call for dengue to be declared a public health emergency, but the minister said we're not at that stage. So my suggested question is,
should dengue fever be declared a public health emergency? That's our poll this morning. Yeah. Should dengue fever be declared a public health emergency? So we'll start taking your votes on that this morning. 222-TALK, 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. That's absolutely toll-free. People on all our streaming platforms, you can send your votes via the messaging portals located there. Those of you listening to us on smart devices or watching us on M&E TV, if you can, and even if you're watching us on YouTube on television, you can vote too via the WhatsApp at 868-318-1021 or 318-1021 if you're in TNT. You can vote there too on WhatsApp.
All right. Boy Badesi says yes. Alana Antoine says yes. 5 is too much. Hanif Daniel, yes. Lester Craigwell, yes. David Wares, not as yet.
Amid all the economic strife the UK is
leaning towards no. What's that, Paul?
I said, with all the economic strife the UK is going through, the royal family will get a $60 million pay raise.
As well? Spend that on the grocery alone. Marcia Rock says yes. Wayne Bennett, yes. Julia S. Batiste, yes. Let's see. Anything on Facebook? On
CrowdStrike is giving out Uber Eats vouchers to the clients who were disrupted by their update last week.
Well,
losses. They give out Uber Eats vouchers.
All right. Wayne Bennett says yes. Anthony Tinto in Canada says yes. Slick Money Grip says yes. Kyle Cupid says no. Should dengue fever be declared a public health emergency? Yes or no? All right. 5 deaths thus far. Lennon Roberts, yes. Michael Robinson, yes. CJ New York, yes. Seawing, yes, from Roger Seawing now in West Palm Beach. Oh, you can go look for Ray Ray. She's in West Palm Beach. Go look for her. Anyway, go just say, listen, you know where Ray Ray lives? And they'll tell you.
Good morning, Ray Ray. Good morning, CJ.
David Nelson says no. Let's see. Michael Robertson, CJ New York says yes. Keegan Barrett says no. Ish out in Malik says yes. Susie B, yes. Carol Guevara, yes. Right. Keep those votes coming. Should dengue fever be declared a public health emergency? We have to do our part. Okay, empty the waters that you have that settle there, like in plant pots. I did that yesterday.
By the rivers of Babylon.
Rena Jennings says yes.
Good morning, Zena.
Oh, Zena has some gossip to tell you about you. I'll wait till you call.
Mi amor. Buenos dias, mi amor.
All right. So 222-8255. Toll free North Americans, 866-525-1099. Vote yes or no on our morning poll. Should dengue fever be declared a public health emergency? Yes or no? Let's see. Nemesis, yes. All right. I don't want to get that at all.
Yeah,
I think anybody
it's hard as possible not to get that, because a large number of those who are being affected are teenagers, interestingly enough, which I find a strange and interesting phenomenon.
Yeah. All right, let's get a couple more coming in before Evie walks in. You have like...
I am here.
I'm hearing you, but I'm not seeing you.
Morning, Avril. Morning, Avril.
Yes, my dear. Good morning. How are you?
Did you get your email? I didn't get mine.
The information was related to me. I'm not sure why you didn't get yours.
Okay, very well then. Thank you very much. You have a good morning.
You're very welcome, but I appreciate your
heads up,
due diligence and ensuring that you communicated your bit of information to me. It was rather helpful.
Read the news then.
Yeah, that's reading news. So I can talk after.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Sea-Lodge residents called for justice for the killing of Jonathan Warwood by police and alleged suspect in the shooting of PC Shakala Charles. The state formally admits that the detention and return of firearm dealer Brent Thomas from Barbados in 2022 was unlawful. Central government and 3 state enterprises raised over $14 billion in debt between October 2023 and June 2024. A 5th person dies from dengue in Trinidad and Tobago, and Joe Biden calls his decision to step aside from 2024 race a matter of defending democracy. Details in a moment. This is news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sintelbab. Good morning. Residents of Production Drive Sea Lots believe they will get justice for the killing of Jonathan Warwood after the Police Complaints Authority visited the area. The PCA started an independent investigation after Warwood, a well-loved tradesman, was reportedly killed by cops during a search of a house around 1 a.m. in Sea Lots on Tuesday. Lawmen reportedly went in search of the suspect or suspects allegedly connected with a shooting at St. Paul Street, East Dry River, which took place around 8:30 a.m. on Monday. In this incident, PC Shakala Charles of the Guard and Emergency Branch and a 26-year-old man of North Post Road, Diego Martin, were both injured during an ambush by 2 gunmen. Charles remained stable in hospital up to late yesterday, while the civilian remained in critical condition. Senior officers claimed the bullet which Charles got hit with on his right side did not pierce his bulletproof vest. In Sea Lots, officers said Warwood allegedly confronted them with a cutlass during the search. Residents vehemently denied Warwood was involved in any criminal activities. The residents also alleged the police planted the cutlass in Warwood's hand and he did not attack them, as is being alleged by officers. The state has formally gone on record admitting that the detention and return of firearm dealer Brent Thomas from Barbados in 2022 was unlawful. The admission was made at a hearing on July 24th of the Attorney General's appeal of a High Court judge ruling that permanently stayed all criminal charges against the 61-year-old owner of Specialist Shooters Training Center. Presenting submissions at the Waterfront Judicial Center in Port of Spain yesterday morning, King's Counsel Peter Knox claimed that the officer's unlawful actions were based on a legitimate belief that Thomas was seeking to flee the country while under investigation. Knox conceded that the police acted wrongly, but they did not act maliciously. While he accepted that Justice Rampersad was entitled to make findings, he did in relation to Thomas' arrest and extradition and order compensation. He suggested that the findings should have been made against the TNT Police Service and not the state. Knox claimed that the judge overstepped in saying the criminal charges against Thomas and making adverse findings in relation to the probe that led to the charges. Knox claimed that there was evidence that Thomas was found in possession of 3 prohibited automatic rifles and 6 non-lethal grenades, which led to him being charged. He claimed that 2 of the rifles were listed in Thomas' firearms user's license, but 1 was not. The judges have reserved their ruling after hearing more than 5 hours of submissions in the packed courtroom on the 9th floor of Tower D. Central government and 3 state agencies raised over $14 billion in debt between October 2023 and June 2024, according to information from the Central Bank's 2024 Monetary Policy Report and from the Ministry of Finance. The government and the state enterprises issued bonds totaling $9.17 billion on the domestic capital market money and US $750 million on the international capital market. On June 17th, the government issued the 10-year US $750 million bond at an interest rate of 6.40%. In its latest monetary policy report, the central bank indicated that its provisional data suggested that for the 8 months ending May 2024, the primary debt market recorded 14 bond issues, raising $9.17 billion. In his June 3rd, 2024 affidavit on the TNT Revenue Authority matter, Minister of Finance Com Imbert signaled that TNT's deficit for the 2024 fiscal year could be as high as $9 billion. A 5th person has died from dengue in Trinidad and Tobago. The Ministry of Health has confirmed there are 450 laboratory confirmed cases of dengue fever and 5 laboratory confirmed deaths. The public is being reminded that dengue fever may be spread by the bite of an infected Aedes aegypti mosquito. Symptoms appear within 5 to 6 days of being bitten and last for 1 to 2 weeks. A 73-year-old grandfather is suspected to have been killed in a home invasion in Tabakit on Tuesday. Pensioner Lakshmi Prasad Supram, a father of two and grandfather of one, was found dead in a bedroom of his son's house, which had been ransacked. His son Sunil Supram returned home from work on Tuesday night and found his father. Police suspect the elderly man may have died as a result of suffocation, but are awaiting the results of a post-mortem examination, which will ascertain the exact cause of death. You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. U.S. President Joe Biden has told Americans in a televised address that he decided to end his faltering re-election campaign in a bid to save U.S. democracy. 81-year-old Mr. Biden said he felt his record as president merited a second term, but that nothing could come in the way of saving U.S. democracy. He said he endorsed U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris to unite their fellow Democrats in the country. The White House speech marked his first public appearance since he exited the race on July 21st, paving the way for Ms. Harris to run for the party's nomination.
I love my country more. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think it's more important than any title. I draw strength and I find joy working for the American people. But this sacred task of perfecting our union is not about me. It's about you, your families, your futures. It's about we, the people. We can never forget that, and I never have. I've made it clear that I believe America is at an inflection point. One of those rare moments in history when the decisions we make now will determine our fate of our nation and the world for decades to come. America's going to have to choose between moving forward or backward, between hope and hate, between unity and division.
Well, finally, here's weather news for the period today till midnight. Trinidad and Tobago and the southern windwards, partly cloudy, hazy, and at times breezy conditions, accompanied by intermittent light to moderate showers or rain. There is a medium chance of a few heavy showers or thunderstorms favoring the morning period. Gradual transition to settled conditions despite the lingering shower and the low chance of the isolated heavy shower. Gusty winds and street or flash flooding are likely near heavy downpours. Trinidad and Tobago is under a yellow level adverse weather alert that's in effect until 10 a.m. today. Look out for a forecast maximum temperature of 31 degrees Celsius at Piarco International Airport and 30 degrees Celsius at Crown Point, Tobago. Currently, it is 27 degrees Celsius at Piarco and 28 at Crown Point. Recapping your headlines to 7 o'clock, Sealot residents called for justice for the killing of Jonathan Warwood by police and alleged suspect in the shooting of PC Shakala Charles. The state formally admits that the detention and return of firearm dealer Brent Thomas from Barbados was unlawful. Central government and 3 state agencies raised over $14 billion in debt between October 2023 and June 2024. A 5th person dies from dengue in Trinidad and Tobago, and U.S. President Joe Biden calls his decision to step aside from 2024 race a matter of defending democracy. I'm Avril Sindhilbab. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in detail at 12 noon and an update coming your way at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All righty. Thank you so much, Avril, for our major news. You can join her again at 8 o'clock for a news brief, and then alongside Sir Charles at noon today for major news. All right. Quickly, let's take a look to see if there's any traffic at this time. There is an accident I have to tell you about. It is northbound on the Raya Butler Highway before the Caroni River. All right. Just before the turn off to go to the Bird Sanctuary is where that accident is, and that is creating some serious backup. From Charlieville up there. All right. Just some volume at Trin City to UE, getting a Port of Spain heavy. Nothing on the Maraval. Chase Village, you got some. Rivulet Road is a bit heavy. Leaving San Fernando, congestion until you pass Claxton Bay. All right, let's see if we have any more votes here. I do believe we have. Cynthia Aaron says no. Cynthia Ramsarup says yes. Andrew Reno says yes. Joycelyn Dial Singh says morning. Right. Okay, that's what I got there, Richie Rich, of course. All right, so let's get the results. You can take Evie's name down, Paul. Okay, don't know where Richard went to. Our morning poll, once again, should dengue fever be declared a public health emergency? Of course,
I was busy talking and didn't realize my mic was off.
Oh, I couldn't tell your camera is off.
Yeah. So anyway, we had 28 people voting in the allotted time on the poll, and which of course is right before you. Should dengue fever be declared a public health emergency? Of the 28 people, 22 of you said yes, and 6 of you said no. So 28 people. Of course, you can continue to vote on this poll throughout the day, through our programming, and we'll give you our final result tomorrow morning, which will be Friday. So put a smile on your face. Traffic is not as bad because school is out. It's not great, but it's not as bad.
Yeah.
So put a smile put a smile on your face because the weekend is here. Of course, I want to tell you that theater is going to be back on August 10th and 11th at SAPA, where we are moving on to our next play, and we're doing something that we did about 11, 12 years ago.
American Dance?
Called Lotto Madness. American Dance is 25 years old. Called Lotto Madness. Of course, all revamped and everything. It's a play. It's one of the plays I wrote, actually. So we're doing it on August 10th and 11th at SAPA is where we will start. So we'll be at SAPA on August 10th at 8:30 p.m. and Sunday, August 11th at 6:30 p.m. Just giving you advance notice. Nothing has started yet. I'm just giving the show advance notice because I'm in the show, so I could say it. And that's basically it. But theater will be back on August 10th and 11th.
One of the questions I wanted to ask Dr. Wayne Hayde yesterday is what his thoughts were on the WhatsApp messages that were made public relating to if he thought it was appropriate for the Prime Minister and the Minister of National Security and the Minister of Energy. Is it those three? Well, the Prime Minister, let me start with the Prime Minister, be sending WhatsApp messages to the former commissioner about FULs for a reported friend and what he thought about that. Because he has some interesting perspectives on the national security scene in Trinidad and Tobago. Many of them were quite interesting. You know, he was clearly an advocate of the death penalty.
Which I'm not, of course.
Yeah, I know. I'm ambivalent on it. While I agree with you to some extent that, I mean, I don't think taking a life fixes the problem. But then on the other hand, on the other side of it, and I agree with Dr. Hayde that some people you are unable to rehabilitate some people. That is a fact. There's some people who will not, depending on their psychological profile or their experiences, will not be able to be rehabilitated. So the state has to house them for the rest of their lives, their natural lives. And I guess it's a philosophical position people take on whether they believe the death penalty is right or wrong from a philosophical perspective. And then, of course, it's a very, very contentious debate.
Our prison system is genetically made up of the issue that rehabilitation is possible. So the motto of the prison service is to treat and hold, to hold and treat, I think it is. And that treat, implied in that treat, is the whole rehabilitative structure of the prison service in Trinidad and Tobago. That's what it's supposed to, a major component of it, if you're speaking to the prison service. And
if you bring an empirical evidence and scientific research, while most will be able to be rehabilitated, not everyone will be
right. So you may have exceptions, and you have people who will need to be incarcerated for very lengthy periods.
For life. for the rest of the natural life because they pose a danger to society.
But if it is that you see, what I was getting from Wayne yesterday was that if it's a firearm offense and not necessarily killing somebody, that you had a firearm, you have a mandatory sentence. Because I brought it up, I said, but you have 18 and 19-year-olds. Are you saying that they can't be rehabilitated? And he said,
I think that's conflating two different issues. I think the death penalty was a different discussion too.
I'm not talking about the death penalty, sir. I'm talking about the issue of rehabilitation.
Absolutely. I agree with that fully. That there needs to be an effective and comprehensive rehabilitation program for persons who, from the time you enter the prison system, even if you are on remand, and that because very often the remand process itself turns you into a more hardened criminal. While there has been no determination of innocence or guilt because of the conditions under which you're held.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And so when they talk about rehabilitation in the prisons and this rehabilitation program, I have seen it firsthand. You are housed, people on lesser charges are housed with hardened criminals. They interact, they have to survive, they have to form allegiances with hardened criminals to survive in the system. The conditions in the system are very, very challenging. And somebody go jump on themselves and say they end up in jail, so it's not Hyatt or Hilton. That's not the point. You understand? And the process of trying to turn that person's mindset or life around, if that is their mindset, a criminological mindset, should begin from the time you are housed under the care of the state. Because guess what? More than 75% will come back out someday. And do you want them rehabilitated or do you want them more hardened criminals? That's the choice. And in many cases, the recidivism rates are the evidence that they are not being rehabilitated, because the recidivism rates in this country are over 60%.
Yeah. But part of it is the resources allocated to the prison service.
Exactly. That's part of it.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, how serious is the state about the what good the prison service can do in terms of rehabilitation, at least that part of their mandate?
Well, no state, no competent state is going to not say they have a restorative justice program. They're going to say it because it's required. You understand? Whether or not it's effective, that's a whole different discussion. Because Daniel Kahn, remember him? Is he the commissioner of prisons, or was he the commissioner of prisons?
Inspector of prisons.
Had done more than one report years ago. The late Selwyn Ryan did some research. Senator Professor Jared Hutchinson did research more recently, which a document he sent to me, a research report he sent to me, on the issues related to housing of prisoners and the conditions and their mental health condition and the effectiveness of restorative justice. And they all painted a really poor picture of our restorative justice system. So people could jump out themselves and ball, it's not a tea party in jail, and what one say, jail and make the right fig. That is it. That's the statement.
Along that line.
Yeah, and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, who you think wouldn't suffer more when they come back out unrehabilitated? Who? And in some instances, in many instances, more hardened criminals. So you continue with your mindset and feel you're doing society at large a favor by not having a proper restorative justice system in place, including the conditions under which they're held. Continue.
Yeah. So it's a and I was thinking about it, Paul, and I was thinking, crime has been a feature, and I mean, crime features in all countries. All countries have crime. But it has been a feature of the Trinidad and Tobago landscape for years and years and years. It has ramped up in terms of the violence and the use of firearms and stuff. But you had, people breaking into people's houses. You had there was a whole battalion of crimes that used to happen even when I was a little boy. Okay. And so how does a country of 1.4 million people reach the point that we are in 2024? What is it? And I understand the gang culture, but what is fueling this gang culture? Is it
drugs, transshipment of drugs and guns as a business model?
All right. Well,
business model.
Let's welcome our guest. He's having some issues with internet. Mr. Gideon Dixon. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. Thank you for joining us. Of course, Paul and Richard, your good friends, are in.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Good morning, ASP.
Good morning, ASP Dixon. We're getting iron no shit this morning, out.
Could you repeat that?
You didn't iron any shirts this morning, out.
I wish it was just that. I just wish it was that. Technical challenges, but I do apologize. I couldn't be on the other platform, but I gave a commitment, so I'm here.
We appreciate your effort anyway. Thank you for being here. We want to talk about a couple of things. First of all, how is your colleague, PC?
Shakala
Charles.
Charles, PC Charles.
Yes, I visited him on yesterday morning, and he was unstable, conscious. He was stable and conscious. He said he was in a little pain. However, he is fighting and he's doing well. Speaking to the nurses and the doctors, they say he's doing pretty well. He would require some more blood. So I would like to seize this opportunity on your airways to ask persons who are civic-minded and are blood donors if they could visit the Port of Spain General Hospital, the blood bank at the Port of Spain General Hospital, and donate blood. It will eventually get to Mr. Shakala. As you are aware, he was in the line of duty trying to see if we could treat with those criminal elements that we have outside there.
Yeah, we wish him a full and speedy recovery, and of course, prayers and support go with his family and you, all his colleagues, because of course you're a part of a collective, and so I'm sure if one person is hurt in the line of duty, it affects all police officers.
Can you tell me if it is that if a police officer is hurt in the line of duty and dies, is that $1 million that the state had offered years ago still in existence? Does that go to the family?
Yes, that is still in existence. It is not broadcast or advertised, but we are aware. We have been monitoring. It is still in existence.
Okay.
Now, there are reports, which we don't know what is accurate, but you can tell us that the officer was wearing a bulletproof vest. He was driving the vehicle, and there are some reports that the bulletproof vest was faulty and or old. Could you clarify if any of this is true or inaccurate for us, please?
All right, so let me take this opportunity to clear some myths, and also let me also say publicly there are some things that we will not be able to speak on the airway, right? Firstly, Mr. Shakala was shot in his upper chest cavity, just above the ridge of his bulletproof vest. So he above the metal plate of the bulletproof vest, he got shot there. And if the bullet had gone an inch more to his left, he would not have been alive today. Right? That is the prognosis that was given. And as it relates to faulty bulletproof vests, we cannot say that the vest at this point in time was faulty. As you are aware, inquiries are ongoing in relation to this matter. But for all intent and purposes, the metal plate was not really struck. That forms the level of protection that is catered for the body armor.
Now, a bulletproof vest doesn't, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't necessarily cover the entire body. It covers most of the chest. So what you're saying to us is that the bullet went past the covering area of the bulletproof vest in this instance and injured the officer.
Yeah, yes, that's the information we have.
Okay. Can you talk about equipment like bulletproof vests in a general sense, if officers and yourself are satisfied with the equipment they're working with?
All right, I could speak to that. And I'm glad I'm speaking to you because you are a very influential person in Trinidad and Tobago, and your other cap you wear. We have resource challenges in the TTPS. We don't often go on the public airways and make loud commentary. And the reality of the situation, it is not a new thing. It has been going on for quite some time, and it is something that needs to be addressed meaningfully. We have our challenges where the bulletproof vests are concerned. We have our challenges where vehicles are concerned. We have our challenges where pepper spray. We have our challenges. We have challenges where the buildings and the air conditions and all these things are concerned. Nonetheless, you find that within our ranks and file, you have a lot of committed, dedicated, devoted officers who, notwithstanding the challenges, often put themselves in harm's way to deliver on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and that is commendable. It is not correct, but it is commendable. We as an association continue to engage the authority, and I could tell you and tell my colleagues at the same point in time, we would have engaged the commissioner and her deputy commissioners just last week, Tuesday, and was given all assurances that efforts are being made to address resources in a meaningful way. It was the number one item on our agenda of activities to engage, and the number two item on our activities to engage, and we could safely say that from the mouth of the Commissioner of Police and the Deputy Commissioner of Police, we have received credible information that efforts are being made to address our shortage in terms of resources as we speak.
You mentioned issues with regard to, in passing, issues with regard to buildings and air conditioning and stuff like that. Doesn't the TTPS have a facilities manager that looks at stations across the country and remedy whatever is at fault? Is there nothing like that in place?
Yes, we have a facility manager, and yes, they engage in these activities. However, one of our greatest challenges where the new police buildings are concerned, particularly those built between 2011 and 2015, is that they had a central AC unit, and most of them, if not all of them at this point in time, have been dysfunctional to a great extent and is causing a lot of inconvenience and a lot of stress on the officers who work out of these establishments. Additionally, we note that oftentimes when buildings are relocated to the police for the purpose of us providing a level of service, it is buildings that other ministries would have refused or no longer accepting as user friendly or fit for purpose, and they are being given to the police. I think that we have reached the time in 2024 that consideration must be given to what the police have on the draft estimates in terms of acquiring better facilities so officers could function.
But central air and stuff like that. But central air, ESP Dixon, is an issue of maintenance. You have central air in many buildings and government buildings across Trinidad and Tobago and private that function. So it has to be an issue of maintenance and the maintenance schedule for those things to have gotten into that level of disrepair.
No. Well, in this instance here, we could safely say it is not maintenance because we definitely over the years have a built-in maintenance system through external service providers, and they would have been called upon on numerous occasions, and both on the schedule and outside of the schedule. So the issue wasn't that. We need to look further in terms of when these agreements are signed with the persons who build these facilities. Whenever shortcomings occur over a period of time, they ought to either pay back the state, or they ought to be held responsible. I think the contracts that were signed are not sufficient, because a building built between 2012 to 2015 is a relatively new building as compared to what a lot of officers have been existing in over time. And the issue here, what we are saying, is it is quite prevalent in those newer stations. That issue of that central air that cannot just be coincidental.
It's bad workmanship, is what you're suggesting.
All the new stations.
So you're saying it's bad workmanship, so bad contracts.
Yeah. We hold the view that it was bad contract, but bad contractual work done, and there must be some system built-in mechanism that could cause the state or the organization to retrieve from those shoddy work that was done.
Okay.
Mr. Dixon, sorry, you mentioned earlier on that among the issues, the challenges facing officers, and as you said, it's always going to be a resource issue because of the demands being constantly put on police officers and the police service as a whole in the evolving criminality of equipment, including cars and vests, etc. Is it that the issues are related to quantum and timely replacement, or defects and quality, or a combination of all of that?
Well, from where I sit, I believe it's a combination, and within recent times now, it will also be our legislative procedure to acquire stuff. As you rightly said, the police service more or less needs to have items readily at our fingertip, because we are operational in character. We are not a government institution that sits and more or less has mundane tasks or tasking. We are required, so our vehicles more or less work 24 hours a day, and there must be a built-in system both to check and to maintain. But the vehicles go 24 hours a day. The firearms used by the officers are used 24 hours a day. Our bulletproof vests, the human resource have to get in them 24 hours a day. So it cannot be that our equipment that we require as tool of trade, they go through a long bureaucratic process to acquire, when the truth be told, we need them in a sustainable manner, because we are always looking to recruit officers, and officers are leaving the organization.
Mr. Put a pause. What you're saying is interesting, because what you're saying, that I am sure that the leadership of the police service understands and knows all too well, because they have all gone through the ranks and experienced these very same things in their career while moving up. So is it, as Richard indicated, it's a shortcoming of a proper maintenance schedule or procurement schedule, because they are going to wear and tear much more quickly, particularly given the increasing demands on officers. And this system is faulty. This mechanism for repair and or replacement is not adequate. Is that the issue here?
No, that's not what I said. I said within recent time.
Okay.
Within recent time, the issue now is that of the procurement, and you would appreciate more than anyone else on this conversation that we have brought into being the procurement legislation. And whilst I made the analogy, it was to say that whilst other government institutions could go without different layers of physical resources over a period of time. The TTPS cannot operate like that. We need to have it and have it in stock, both for training.
But national security concerns that are eminent and related to the protection of life, part of the exemption of that, and I could be wrong.
Could you repeat the question? I didn't hear it.
There were exemption provisions in procurement, which I think included the Ministry of Legal Affairs, some aspects of national security because of the eminent nature of those procurement processes. Wasn't the police service in some measure part of that? Didn't fall under that?
We are not cognizant of. I am not cognizant of that. In my last discourse with our procurement officer, and that is Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Benjamin, he indicated the rigors associated with the procurement, and we take him at both word value and the fact that he and his team have been looking into it in a meaningful way. So that exemption that you referred to there is something that, if it doesn't exist, we would want to advocate that something be done, because even you at this point in time cannot say with a level of certainty whether it exists, and I myself, I am not aware that it exists.
I'll ask a question.
Yes, if we could go to the July 18th, 19th, I think it was, where you had a lot of those roadblock exercises. I don't know that they're not being sustained at the same level that they were on those 2 days, I believe. You could correct me if I'm wrong. But there has been some criticism, some from citizens, for the inconvenience, which is part of the course. But you also had some criticism from professionals in the field that it needed to be more strategic, in that the criminal element will know that the roadblocks are in place after a while, after the first 10, 15 minutes, and therefore will avoid or just not be on the streets for those 2 days. And so that maybe it needed to be more strategic. I'm just going with some of the criticisms I heard from the various people speaking on it. What's your take on that? Do you think it was productive in terms of what the police would have achieved out of those ramped up activities? And what's your take on being more strategic?
And to add that, does the association support that approach?
Interesting threefold question there. Let me start by saying this. One, the exercise on that day or those 2 days in question, we need to also look at the other side of the stats as to whether we had any criminal activities in the east-west corridor or any deaths, loss of life occurring whilst those activities were taking place. If the answer to that is no, then the strategy probably worked, and we need to give kudos to the strategy working. The level of inconvenience that was faced by members of the public, also the members of the public at this point in time should have the appreciation that you have asked for the officers to do something, and I am aware that the approach will be a multi-pronged approach. The approach will not only be that of roadblock, but I am also aware that you cannot ask for change and expect it to just be a mundane exchange and no inconvenience. So the public inconvenience at that point in time, again, we would have in the past indicated that ramped up police activities will also cause inconvenience to the law-abiding. But within the law-abiding and around the law-abiding, you also have the criminal minds and those with criminal intent. They also were displaced for that specific period. So that also needs to be looked or put into the equation. Could we sustain such activities? The clarion answer to that is no, we cannot, because we don't have that level of resources at our disposal to do it on a daily basis. And that is why we are saying to you, our approach is multi-pronged. We will not communicate everything to you. We will be doing what needs to be done to rid our streets of those who are bent on committing and perpetrating crimes. And the activities have started. So I would want for the public to assess us more so by the activities we engage in, and not necessarily those that we communicate, but by the activities we engage in.
Well, I'm on record as saying when the exercises are taking place that I have no problem with them. They will cause some inconvenience, but if it's for the greater good and in the present environment, I have no problem with them. And the police did come out after and indicate what the outcome, the positive outcome was where those were concerned. Mr. Dixon, ASP Dixon, one of the questions that comes up on this show and is coming up on the chats from our audience over and over with regard to equipment is the issue of police wearing body cams. And I don't know what to ask again. I ask your superiors, including the Commissioner of Police and DCP Suzette Martin on a recent joint select committee, if body cams were worn at that exchange in St. Augustine, which resulted in an exchange of gunfire and 4 men dying. And more recently, yesterday in Sealots, when officers went on an exercise, according to reports in the media this morning, to look for persons who were alleged to have been involved in the incident in St. Paul Street, in which the officer, Shakala, was shot and another person. And if there were body cams being worn, given that those 2 exercises were planned exercises, and we have the commissioner and the past commissioners on record as saying it is part of standard operating procedure, particularly in high-risk operations. So can you comment on that for us from the association's perspective, please, and what is happening with the use of these body cams? If it is that they are prioritized for these kinds of situations where it is more than likely reasonable to think that the police may be engaged with criminals who may want to open fire on them because they were investigating an incident in which an officer was shot and otherwise. Can you comment on that, please?
At this time, sir, I will not be able to comment on that. As you are aware, an active investigation is
Well, can you comment generally on the issue of body cams from the association's perspective? Are they being consistently employed?
Well, I could safely say that from an association perspective, our officers have embraced the notion that it is best practice as an operational unit to wear your body-worn cameras. What I could also say, having done our own inquiry, we are mindful that these cameras only, the storage, the battery storage is only that just about an hour. So that in itself could pose significant...
Can you put a pause there? You said, and I'm listening very carefully, that officers acknowledge that the use of body cams is best practice. And that is a different statement to saying officers are consistently using body cams as required in best practice. Can you say that officers are consistently using body cams as part of standard operation procedure as required by best practice? Can you say that is happening?
Dr. Richards, you asked me a question, and I would really appreciate if you allow me to answer. You
I apologize. Go ahead, please.
I could not have speak from that open investigation that we know that is taking place. So you asked to make a general comment, and I was making my general comment.
Go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead, please. Sorry for interrupting you.
And now I lost my entire trend of thought because I was building up.
Can I repeat the question then?
Go right ahead. So repeat the question, please. I'd appreciate it.
You indicated that officers acknowledge that the use of body cams is best practice. And that is different to if they're actually using body cams as part of standard operating procedure, particularly in high-risk encounters or planned encounters that may be deemed to be high risk. Is that actually happening? Whether or not the batteries end in an hour or not, is that actually happening?
I myself, to be able to answer that question sufficiently, sir, I would have to do that inquiry and get back to you and your listenership. I will have to do that inquiry or call someone to do it and be able to give you that information. And that is being fair to me because I cannot speak to every single officer and what occurs outside there, but I'm saying that we are very mindful that it is best practice, and the association continues to encourage officers to use their body-worn cameras, and there is standard operational procedure. So as it relates to whether it is occurring on the frequency or as a routine activity, we will have to do that inquiry and get back to you, sir.
That sounds eerily similar to the response of the commissioner and DCP.
I don't appreciate that, Doc. I don't appreciate that.
I'm just saying that what I'm saying is I can't seem to get an answer from either the police leadership or anyone regarding a simple question about whether or not body cams are being consistently used.
Let me flip this on you. Let me flip this on you. So reference was made to the situation in Tinapuna a couple of months ago. And the body-worn camera, right? And you made reference to both social media comments and commentaries and everything. My engagement in social media during that period, when that activity occurred, to me, almost everyone was commenting on the excellent work done to take out the perpetrators. I cannot recall definitively. I can't recall anyone speaking to the body-worn camera. Only when the Joint Select Committee would have sat subsequent to that activity. It is a good probing question, and we also need to understand you being an advocate for justice and criminal justice and fairness. We have to also appreciate the views and commentaries of the members of the public in our criminal justice system. And as an academia, you could speak to Robinson 2002, who spoke to that it needs to have a level of consistency with what is taking place. Because, again, we have a criminal justice system where persons are being taken up.
Mr. Dixon, this show is on a record, including myself, as commending the police for their excellent work regarding that kidnapping case where, in my opinion, the police work and pressure on whoever was responsible resulted in them releasing that young woman, Miss Hussein, safely. We are on record as commending the police. I am on record in this show as commending the police on that.
Thank you, sir.
So the conversation of whether or not the public opinion and the good work in the police, and just asking a simple question, because in my opinion, the body cam footage, if it exists in that situation, will corroborate that the police operated in the way that they should, contrary to what sometimes the narrative is from the general public. And that is why I think the body cam footage is so important.
I agree. I agree with that.
But I'll say it again, I cannot seem to get an answer from anyone in the TTPS regarding, and it's a simple question, whether or not body cams are being consistently used, particularly in situations that are planned and may be high risk in the estimation of the police officer. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. SB Dixon, I know they have raised the issue of the battery life of the body cams. So, but of course, there are body cams like anything else. You would have better body cams and less good body cams. And I know there are some body cams that can last 13 hours. So,
Rich, I just looked up on Amazon for professional body cameras, and I just chose one that is 200 US, which is 3,400 milliamp hours, which is mAh, which could last 12 to 14 hours.
So I'm not so sure in terms of, and this may not be a question really, may not be something that you can answer, but if the TTPS hierarchy has realized from the feedback from police officers that body cameras are not fulfilling their mandate because of battery life, then you may have to go into procurement of better body cams.
Excellent.
So that is true.
And you are quite correct, because I am able to speak to this because at Dr. Richards and the Joint Select Committee, the one that spoke to the commanders of the divisions, it was mentioned that the lifespan of those that we use are just about 1 hour. So it is a gap that needs to be addressed. And you are making reference to the 200 US for one. Remember, in Trinidad and Tobago, we have resource challenges also in terms of finances. It is no excuse, but our procurement department need to really look at that in a meaningful way.
Okay. Because to me, it's something. To me, it's like a simple fix, because there are police departments across the planet that use body cams. So it's a simple investigation of what body cams do you use, and what are the quality, what is the sort of quality that you get? Are you getting really clear footage? You don't want blurry footage. It's something that can be easily curated in terms of what's the best quality. And I get the point that you're saying about resource allocation, but there is no bigger resource allocation than crime. We are
saying it here. We even say it when it comes to the budget, but then when it comes to the actuality of the funds being released in a timely manner, is another thing altogether.
Mr. Dixon, can I move the conversation to the issue of the promotions and how you think that is going? I know that had been a contentious issue, with some different reasons being given for what would have happened in terms of the police promotions a couple of months ago. And can you give a status update on that, please?
The association is mindful that there are several matters before the court regarding the constable to corporal promotion. We also believe that it should not have reached there. It could have been dealt with. I know attempts were made by the executive to deal with it. However, persons have their constitutional right to exercise. We, the association, support our members who have exercised their constitutional rights. None of the matters are yet to be determined, but I know the longer it lingers on, is the more demoralizing it is for the officers. So we would want to still advocate, if these matters could be resolved before it goes through this entire process, have them resolved. It is in the best interest of the organization. It is the best interest of the officers. It is the best interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So that would be our call. On a flip side of that, we saw 10 officers promoted to the highest rank in the 2nd division there yesterday. So we want to commend the executive, again, the commissioner team, particularly the DCP administration, for the work they are doing to ensure that those who are just due for what they would have worked long and hard for, they get it in a timely manner so that they could continue to impact in a positive way on the organization.
Mr. Gibson, as we close, I would like to once again wish your Mr. Dixon, your colleague, the PC who was shot, Shakala, is it Shakala? Let me get it right.
Shakala Charles,
full and speedy recovery, and make a call for persons who may be so inclined and willing to go to donate blood on his behalf, and to thank you and your colleagues for your continued sacrifice and hard work in attempting to keep us all safe. And thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you very much, Doc, and continue to do the excellent job you're doing there, you and your team.
Thank you so much, Gideon Dixon.
Okay.
All the best to you.
Dixon, thanks for joining us this morning.
I'm going to stop asking about body cams.
No, I just looked up here. In my mind, I'm thinking, and Wendell said the same thing. where in the world would you get a body cam that battery life is an hour? I looked at a cheap one.
Steve Khan, why body cams are not a new phenomenon in police service in national security use?
It's been out for decades.
It's been out for decades. There are jurisdictions who have successfully employed the use of body cams to corroborate their position in situations where the police are going out on dangerous missions, which could be every day. Why on earth would you procure body cams where the battery life is an hour when there are jurisdictions for decades?
I'm watching another
with battery life of 8 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours. And what they do, because I've visited other jurisdictions and asked questions, is that you go like you would with a camera or whatever device with a backup battery, which you buy alongside the device so that you are covered during the duration of the operation. Apparently, in this country, body cams are such high technology that we're taking a while to catch up to the rest of the world.
Yeah. So that body cam I looked for on Amazon was a professional. 200 US. Hold on.
You know that
200 US, 3400 mAh battery lasted 12 to 14 hours. I just clicked on a $40 camera that has an mAh of 1300 and the battery lasts 6 hours. So did they pay $2 for the battery cam they get and get 100 mAh for battery? I don't know. I think bottom line, they don't want the officers to wear body cams, so they're not going to do anything.
You have to look at what the battery life is with continuous.
Yeah, I did. And that's what it says here.
Because some people will say battery life, but it just means battery life in standby mode. Battery life in active recording and stuff. So that's what you really need to look at.
6 hours working time.
You need to dig a little bit more in the details.
Yeah, I did. I'll dig up a little more, but just go ahead.
I just trying to send you something, so they're giving you quick click.
I don't know. They don't want it.
Vianney, I would give them as much as my money as you would. Let's pool resources. So how much ever you give, I will give.
I don't know.
How about that?
I really don't know.
Anyway, this is where we wrap it up on the Power Breakfast Show this morning. So have a fantastic day, whatever you do. The weekend begins tonight. People are the second after midnight. Have a fantastic day. Remember to smile and laugh. It's good for your health, and I'll keep you posted on what's happening in.
You all have a great day, and if you are inclined or can, please, you can go to a health center and donate blood on behalf of the police constable so that he can have the the resources he needs. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day and be safe.
All right. And tomorrow is the Ministry of National Security. We're going to talk about the trafficking in persons. So we have some people that will be online for that. All right. A lot of people missing. I keep opening up Facebook and seeing missing. All right. Let's get into 8 o'clock news brief. Avril is in.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is time for news update at 8 o'clock. I'm Avril Sintel Bob. Good morning. PC Shakala Charles is a bit pale, still in pain, fighting, but in need of more blood. And the Police Welfare Association is calling on members of the public to donate blood for this continued treatment. Head of the association, ASP Gideon Dixon, gave the update this morning while speaking on the Power Breakfast Show. He said that the PC was shot in the chest, and if the bullet had gone an inch to his left, he would not be alive today, according to medical authorities. However, he did clarify concerns in the public domain that the vest he wore to preserve his life was faulty. He said he could not say that it was. He also explained that the bullet went past the bulletproof vest and injured the officer. He said that the association has been in communication and has had opened communication with the Commissioner Police and Deputy Commissioner of Police to address any shortcomings with resources for the officers, and they have been given a commitment that there will be a focus placed on ensuring this matter is urgently addressed. He said that most of the resources like police cars, guns, etc. are used 24 hours a day. He said that they are needed constantly to ensure the officers are able to do their jobs effectively, addressing attempts by the police service to ensure that they ramp up efforts against criminal elements. He said that while some of those efforts may be inconvenient to members of the public, it is necessary to meet criminal elements head on. Sea Lords residents are calling for justice for the killing of Jonathan Warwood by police, an alleged suspect in the shooting of PC Shakala Charles. Residents of Production Drive Sea Lords believe they will get justice for the killing of